We know what that's like. I mean, just last night, a bus about 10 minutes from where we're sitting right now was targeted in a shooting attack. An Arab terrorist shot at a local bus from the Binyamin region right here next to Bet El, about 10 minutes down the road.
Actually, to clarify, the bus wasn't targeted. It was people inside the bus who were
not
targeted.
fun. People, correct. People inside. Jews were targeted in that bus last night. And you can go to my Facebook page now. It's been shared hundreds of times. I don't know how much the mainstream media has reported on it. I don't know if that's something you're hearing over there in the news. But a bus targeted. Thank God. I mean, people are saying it was a miracle. No doubt a miracle that no one was seriously wounded. 2 people were taken to the hospital, but lightly wounded in a terror shooting against Jews riding a bus just down the road from where we are. And again, just to give you, you saw a little bit if you were watching the Israel Video Network, we are overlooking, and we'll show it to you in a few minutes, the beautiful hills of Binyamin. This is literally a 15-minute drive away from Jerusalem. People talk about isolated settlements, West Bank, all these terms, which we don't use because we don't believe that they're accurate. Certainly weren't accurate for 2,000 years, but we are just 10, 15 minutes away from Jerusalem where this shooting took place. So on that note, we are going to get started. And I think, I think it should be ladies first. That's my feeling. If you guys are agreeing with me to introduce the first topic, are you cool with that? Ladies first today?
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
You good? Goldstein from Tennessee.
I'm all about equal opportunity.
Beforehand, I think we should make a bracha on this beautiful wine and thank Psagot Winery.
Psagot Winery, go check them out. You can find them online.
Their story is incredible about finding a coin or something underground.
Yeah, so we'll hear about it.
Really amazing. I can't wait for everybody to hear it. But I have my wine here. You all can go find your own. Just give me a straw.
Let's, this is our minhag, our custom on the show. We're always drinking. We're always drinking.
We're always drinking.
We're always drinking.
On Tuesdays.
No, but if we're going to do it, might as well drink something made here from the land of Israel. It's a beautiful wine.
Wait.
Here's one of the owners of the winery. Go ahead and introduce yourself. We're going to talk to you in a few minutes.
Hi, beautiful one. Thank you for hosting us.
Amen. Psagot Winery.
So who is this lovely young woman who came and is joining us? You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, how are you?
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. My name is Naama Bird. I'm from Psagot Winery, and this is great to have you here.
Loud. Let them hear you all over the world.
Okay. We are in the mountain of Benjamin region. Psagot is just up the hill, 5 minutes from here. We established this winery 15 years ago, and it's a great place.
I have a question for you. You've established a winery 15 years ago, yet this bottle, maybe even this same type of bottle, has landed on the table of the Prime Minister's residence. How did that happen? Is it just because it tastes wonderful, or you also have connections, or both?
I think both.
Both.
I think both. But I think the wine is doing good. It's doing the job, and it's something about I don't know. The success is Baruch Hashem. It's a great thing. Many things made it happen through the way. I can't really put the finger on what was it, but I think good wine must be major part of it. I think this is what we are very.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it was only one time that it landed on the Prime Minister's table, then you could say maybe it was a connection. But second time, the third time, the fourth time, at that point, they're no longer being nice to you.
Drink it.
I have.
What do you think?
It's
I drink it all the time.
Fine. I buy it by the case. I come here and I buy it by the case. Absolutely. I really do. I'm not just saying that.
No, this is perfect. It's delicious.
So we have these really interesting coins, which you don't usually see on a bottle. Actually, I've never seen a coin on a bottle, let alone an ancient replica Hebrew coin.
It's the only one in the world. They put many stuff on, like.
Let me make sure everybody sees it.
Stuff, but this is real metal.
Let me make sure that everybody sees these coins that are on the bottle, so you get an understanding of what we're going to be talking about.
This is actually the story of the winery, and this is why we chose to put it on all the bottles, even though it's a very hard work and lots of labor to do that. It costs a lot, and it's really. But we feel it's worth the effort because in one thing that we put on the bottle, we say who we are, This coin, we actually found it in an ancient cave from the days of the Second Temple. We excavated this cave in Psagot 15 years ago.
Here on this site?
On the up the hill where
where you first started.
Yeah, we first started in Psagot where we live. This is where we live. This is where our house is, and we started a small winery, just 400 bottles. We were very young, 21.
So that means you drank them all yourself?
We don't
You made 400, you drank them all yourself.
We can handle that, but our parents were not going to sell anything. I did university, I did biology. My husband learned law and went to law school, and we were like, this was not our business. And we started to dig into this world, and when we found this cave, we started to excavate it one summer with friends, and we found lots of stuff, like bones.
What do you mean by excavate a cave? You walked in and you try to flatten the floor out? Or it was full with earth?
It was full with mud, and we said, okay, if we will take everything out, maybe we will find something and we will have some room to put the barrels, because we didn't have where to put them. This is the story. And when we took all the mud out, we found an ancient cave with a wine press in the middle of it.
What?
Yes, this is real story.
Wait, you found a wine press in a cave?
Yes, just behind
just sitting there.
Just sitting there,
awesome.
Full of mud for 2,000 years, waiting to be digged.
That's so neat.
And this coin was one of the things we found. It's all in Rockefeller Museum now. They took all the evidence that we found. And this coin is a very special one because it's from the second year of the Great Revolution, written second year of the revolt, and
the revolt against the Romans.
Yes, and the other side is saying for the freedom of Zion.
Right.
It's a very special coin with the story is very strong. Like when Israel were just before everything was dead here, and we tried to say we are here and we are here to stay, and wine represents this.
Before you were digging this cave and moving all the mud out, were you and your husband, you're 21 years old, you're like, have a barrel, like, what are we doing here? Let's just do it. And then all of a sudden you have this light goes off.
It wasn't like that.
A big wine press slaps you in the face and you forget it, we're meant to do this. Was it like that, or?
It was something about passion and young people and thinking, oh, this is going to be cool and adventure and something to do with friends. Let's try to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And when we did it, after we finished dig everything out, it took us 4 weeks. We understood that we are standing on something really meaningful and we have to do something with it. And this coin was waited for 4 years till we decided, okay, we're brave enough to put it on the bottles and tell everybody, listen, this is not a new winery. This is an old winery. We are here for already 2,500 years, and we are here to stay and to continue this.
Amen.
Amen.
That's great.
So that's your wine is a significant political statement.
I think so.
And you've actually gotten backlash from making such a statement. How dare you reestablish a 2,000-year-old winery?
I know. Listen, it was very, everybody told us, listen, write on the labels, Jerusalem Mountains. Put something,
something kosher.
Something kosher so everybody will
feel
comfortable to drink.
For the audience, though, to understand, though, is where we're sitting right now in the hills of Binyamin is what the international community would call occupied territories.
Sure.
So by labeling these hills as Binyamin and putting it on your label, you've become a significant target against BDS.
It's true.
Boycotts.
And I think that this is why we were in the front of the boycotts few times. We are struggling this in Europe mostly. In the States, it's really much easier, and we get a lot of support, and many people buy the wine because it's from here.
Right.
And we found out it's not so. You don't have to be ashamed of who you are, and you have to stand for what you believe. And Baruch Hashem, it wasn't. At the beginning, it was really scary. We were shocked.
You didn't know what
Everything
to expect.
is going to ruin. We are shipping 70% of our wine overseas. So it's this is our market. And Australia and Europe, we have France and England and Germany, and all these places were okay, we are going to close this market. We have to target other markets. China and other stuff, and we started that. And Baruch Hashem, because we started that, we have now also that, and it's not instead.
So
they're drinking this in China?
Yes.
Bottom line.
Today they order a big shipping of.
How can people out there watching all over the world, bottom line, how can they get Psagot wine wherever they are in the world? What's the best way to get the wine?
Okay, so we have a warehouse in the United States and in other places in the world. Basically, you can go to our website, it's Psagot Wines, and you can find all the information how to get the wines in America and mostly in New York and New Jersey, but also other places.
We can put up a link in the comments.
Sure.
We'll put up a link in the comments.
So
It's a lot easier.
We'll help the audience find out.
And also, you can split a case with your neighbor.
Right.
For holidays coming up,
For sure.
you can split a case
Tell
with
me-
your neighbor.
I'm not making it up. I buy cases from here. I don't make it up.
Before we move on to our political talk, I want to ask you an honest question. If you had a choice, now knowing what you know now, to be a target of BDS or not to be a target of BDS, what would you pick?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And it's interesting. A lot of people don't want to be boycotted, but this is the space I'm in, and I'll just give you, I'll give you an illustration about what I learned about BDS. Is that there's a silent majority of people who support Israel, and the loud minority are the ones who are not necessarily growing in numbers, though it seems that way.
Wow.
They're just organizing very well. So when they're organizing under one banner, an anti-Semitic banner of BDS, it awakens the lion of people who are saying, we're not going to stand for it, and we're going to stand, and we're going to drink to it as well.
This was amazing for us. Like we are simple, we are.
You guys keep talking.
We are people, we were afraid, and I think why I say yes, because for me it was so powerful to understand that who I am is good. You are okay at Mitnacheret. You live in the West Bank. It's okay. Don't feel, that I work in Tel Aviv, and all the time I feel that I'm so different, and I'm not different. Like the world is with me.
You are different. You're extraordinary.
It was for me feeling much confidence about who I am, who is the winery, who we are, what do we sell, and what we believe in.
And it's empowering.
Oh,
Shedding it and just be like,
yes, that was the thing.
it's great.
Don't be afraid of who you are.
Kol hakavod.
Great.
That's
Time to that.
Enjoy,
Thank
Everybody
you for
say bye.
hosting
Thank
us.
you, Nama.
She's our host.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Nama.
for opening up your home to us.
Enjoy.
This is your home, yes?
One more.
All right. Oh, wait, let me just tell everybody, these coins are on the bottle. Nama was so nice to give us a number of these coins. What we're going to actually do is, these coins are actually made for the bottle. But we're going to put a hole through it and put a nice rope leather through it so you could have it as a necklace. It says, these are beautiful. We'll put it on the website later.
Okay. Are we selling these coins?
Yeah. Well, no, we're not selling these coins. We're going to be shipping them for free when when we have our listeners, our audience continue to support us.
Well, I'm taking one for free. You can't have one.
All right. That was all intro. That was great. Beautiful. Psagot Winery, check them out. Now we're going to move to the news, everything going on here in Israel, and we're going to go back to...
I'm just going to check to see if we have any
right.
questions on the winery.
Questions on the
Chaim,
winery.
great wine. Very well said. You're extraordinary. She is extraordinary, as you said. Wishes from the UK. We've got people watching from all over the world right
Awesome. Zahava, talk about the project you're working on, and
Well-
what can you share with our audience all over the world? What's going on? What's new? What's new
Okay,
with you?
well, the first thing I'd like to preface everything by talking about a very important concern of mine, and that is we have a problem with the mindset of the Israelis, the Israeli people as a whole, and of course our government. And that problem is that we are accepting terrorist acts, and we're accepting what's going on in the South as if it's a norm, and it's not a norm, and we should not accept this. But unfortunately, our government, their inaction, their inactivity, their failure to carry out policies of deterrence, and their failure to have real consequences for the terrorists, okay, that is causing not only the terrorists to accept it as a norm, but for us to accept that this is the way we have to live. And we don't have to live this way. And what I find is, I think that most of this problem started with the Oslo Accords. If you remember, when we were, first of all, the fact that we were negotiating with terrorists, that was the biggest problem. But then when the terrorists were killing us in the streets, what did Shimon Peres say? They're sacrifices for peace. It doesn't make sense. Here we're supposedly negotiating, okay, with these terrorists. The terrorists are killing us, and Shimon Peres is saying sacrifices for peace. It has no logic. But unfortunately, with that kind of mindset of the government back then, and the government now, with its failure to implement laws and policies that already exist for deterrence measures, that's forcing us to accept terrorist acts as a norm. And what's happening in the South, I mean, how long is it going on now? I'm not talking about
17 years.
I'm not talking
17 years of rockets.
17 years, okay.
At least.
More
But
than
in the
17.
past,
During
2001.
when we were in Gush Katif, I was
5,000 rockets.
I was standing
Yes.
there and a rocket fell within 100 meters.
5,000
yes, exactly. It happened way before
Yeah.
we left Gush Katif.
Yeah.
Well, we were chased out of Gush Katif, actually. The problem is, now we've been experiencing for the past 9 months an invasion, a consistent attempt of invading our southern border. And our government, rather than crushing the enemy, I don't know what they're doing, but it's continuing. And it's forcing our people in the South, I don't know how they're breathing down there.
You've been down
Okay.
there a bunch of times, right?
Me, myself, I mean, we've
Ben
all been
has.
down there. I used to work down in the South for 3 years down in Sderot, so I've had my share of dodging rockets. Many stories. We could probably take up the whole hour on, how many times I had to run from rockets. But what I want to ask you, Zahava, right now, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, it was a shooting attack last night. Thank God no one was killed near Beth El, down the road from where we are now. The government right now is somewhat trying to create a deterrence by destroying the homes of the terrorists, albeit it takes 3 months to destroy them, albeit we were just told, I think this morning or yesterday, that in one of the most recent terror attacks, they weren't going to even destroy the whole house of the terrorists, but only a floor, a part of the house of terrorists. So right now, what is your message to the people listening? What should the Israeli government do in order to create that deterrence?
Well,
What
first
should
of
be
all, I
done?
just want to say that demolishing homes is the most minimal step of deterrence.
Okay.
And we don't even have that. And what's going on, we have over 100 homes now of terrorists that have not been demolished. And like you said, yesterday there was a decision to only demolish a partial home. I had a friend of mine who said, what, were we partially murdered?
What does that mean? Like you draw a line between your brother and sister when you share a room, and like this side's mine, this side's yours.
No,
They come in and
what do they do? You destroy a room or
How do
a
you destroy
floor of a
You
house.
just put cinder blocks
It's
in and make
decided
it block
it in,
where,
you cement it
no,
in.
it's decided where the terrorists spend
Yeah,
most
but you
of
know what's
their time.
amazing? Jewish homes are destroyed in entirety, even if only 1 meter is contested, as in Nativ
Avot, right.
Yet Arab homes of bloodthirsty savages who slaughter us and pray for our death on a daily basis. Let's walk lightly and only blow up their basement and their ping pong table.
Okay.
Maybe the government doesn't want a deterrent.
Well,
Maybe this is politically designed. We're
No,
statistics.
Maybe it doesn't, but okay, so this is what I want to say. I'm sick of it. So many people are sick of it. So I got together with a bunch of amazing women, very devoted, very committed, and we're called Women for Israel Security, in Hebrew, Nashim Leman Bitachon, and it is our mission to effect change and to have our government implement the laws and procedures and policies for deterrence right now.
For example,
And
what would you say?
For example, demolish a home. We got a ruling that says we can demolish a home. Demolish it.
Next
What
step.
are you waiting for?
After let's say we went and did that, what's the next step towards deterrence?
I don't want to give away all my.
No, the thing is though, are you like a legal?
I'll tell you why I asked,
No,
because Sunday the government was supposed to vote on a proposal, I believe it was by Minister Naftali Bennett, which would call for the expulsion of the families of terrorists. Now, the Prime Minister Netanyahu,
To
decided
Gaza?
I don't know where exactly. I didn't read the bill itself, but irrelevant because it was postponed indefinitely. The Prime Minister said, no, we will not enact this policy now. We will not vote on the policy now. We're going to push it off. I'm going to talk to all the coalition heads, the ministers, and I'll get back to you. So that's where things stand now in terms of the next possible step to deterrence. I mean, is that something
That's something
you
that
see
we
that
would
as a
look to.
deterrent?
We
Reporting
are
families?
we are working together. We have an attorney. We're working together with an attorney who is right now researching various things that we can file a suit against the leaders of the government. We're going to take this through the court system. And we're going to cause a lot of noise around it. We're in conjunction with filing suits against our leadership who are not doing their job, who are not living up to the responsibility. The key priority, the key job of any government is to protect its people and to protect its borders. Our government, our leaders are negligent.
There's a significant issue, though. I think if you're going to use the court system in Israel in order to fight against the right-wing government and to push them into actually following the law, right? The right-wing government can't even get their watered-down laws through the courts because the court shuts them down. They legislate from the bench. So, like, does it become a legal issue at first as a trigger, and then you become a more of a public relations? Is that the direction?
Okay, it is an issue of sending a very clear message to our government that the people of Israel will not accept terrorism as a norm. We do not accept it on our streets, on our roads, in our homes, or on our southern border. And that is the key message. We will no longer accept it. Our mindset is not of acceptance. And our government, whose mindset is one of surrender, one of acceptance, has got to change. And we are demanding this change. And if it takes a lawsuit to do it, we will do it.
So I want to turn to our security man over here.
It was interesting you say that
in terms of
because
deterrence. What would be an effective
the Arabs
deterrence?
themselves, and I know this from very close call on Friday night on patrol around my community, the Arabs themselves know that we have no deterrence. The Arabs are, way back in the day, they at least used to cover their faces when they'd go in the street to try to kill us with Molotov cocktails. Now they walk right up to your car with a smile and open the door with a butcher knife in their hand.
Exactly.
They know we are stuck. They know that we're stuck. On the one hand, our own government will fry us for protecting ourselves. We've learned that enough times in the past. And people, even that I know personally, have experienced that in the past.
You have, right?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not.
You were attacked in your
Trying to
car.
spill my wine on you.
Right.
So the question is, it's not only now the government that isn't backing us up, and the southern residents will tell you by the tens of thousands that they've basically given up on the government to help them. The Arabs themselves know it, so that creates an emboldened atmosphere amongst the terrorists themselves.
What's the deterrence?
But
Home demolitions, potentially.
home demolition is just the beginning.
Minimum.
We want
Expelling
that.
families.
Look, home demolitions do create a sense of urgency for families to turn their own sons and daughters in.
If they know it happens right away.
I've seen it happen. I've been on the street when we're waiting for a terrorist and their own father had called them in because they hate us. They despise us. They have trained their children to hate us from day one, but boy, they sure don't want their house demolished. But at the end of the day, if you're a national hero and you're going to heaven with 70 virgins and you're getting paid every single month by the PA, the Fakistinian Authority, I can't say P, I have to say F like the Arabs do. They can't say P either, so I have to say Fakistinian instead of Pakistinian. Get it? Then there really is, like you said, we are in a position now where it's a free-for-all.
And we also have to stop subsidizing our enemy. We are we are paying for their electricity, their water.
Gaza.
Of course.
Just shut it down.
Exactly.
Can I make a
What country
confession?
subsidizes an enemy whose sole purpose is to destroy and kill
Unless
every
there's
last
something else going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. And you can bet your booty that is exactly what's going on.
Gedaliah is about to come out of the closet here. So to speak.
If you're talking
I have,
about
so to
pressure
speak,
from the
so to
European
speak.
Union.
I don't know. I asked this question once, and maybe y'all can answer. I said, who are we afraid of? of? Really? Like, is Sweden going to stop some major deal with us?
I think they are afraid. I think our
I
leadership
want to
is
know
afraid.
what, though. Are we going to lose some trade deals? What is
Yeah,
really
talk
going
about
on
that.
behind the scenes? I want to get your take on it, please.
My confession is this.
Clean up wine here.
When a natural disaster occurs around the world, a tsunami in Fiji, an earthquake in Japan, a tornado in Kansas, whatever, and people tell me, well, Israel's so dangerous, you have terrorism. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? You have earthquakes, you have tornadoes, you have tsunamis that killed 100,000 people. Like, okay, we have terrorism. And so that's the mentality, that's the mindset I think that you're trying to fight against, is to say that it isn't a natural occurrence, but it is. And I'll explain to you why I think so. It's because when there's not such thing as a lone wolf attack in the Palestinian Authority, it may not be coordinated from all the way from the top, but it's been educated all the way from the top, and it's being rewarded all the way from the top. And so what happens is I spoke to security people in the security apparatus about the terrorists who killed the man and the woman in Barkan that were in their office. They still can't find him. They think that he's in Jenin somehow.
I thought they surrounded his home.
Yeah,
The home he was hiding in last night. He got away.
I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what we're
What's the
told.
change?
You
No,
know what they
but-
have in a basement right now, getting information from him. You have no
That's
idea.
possible.
My point
That's
is-
possible.
My point is this. My point is that our own security apparatus is not concerned with the individual anymore. They're not. It's not like you go in America and there's a violent person with a weapon. You can do everything you can to find that person no matter what, because he's armed and dangerous, right? There's something called armed and dangerous. You gotta get them, right? So here we see a Southern commander in the Hebron Hills that says 1 out of every 4 Arabs here are terrorists. Whether they're actually armed right now or they're in the act of it doesn't matter. They're walking, they're potential time bombs. And so when we're looking so much at with these tunnel vision about this person, we lose the plot. We lose the plot. So it's not about destroying one person's house. It's not about removing this whole family. There needs to be a significant change to stop terrorism, which means that we need to make sure that the price is too heavy for this act. And I don't mean a personal price, I mean a national price. They created a nation state on their own, they made it up. Well, let them take the responsibility as a nation state, and anybody who doesn't make them accountable for their own actions, their textbooks, their money to terrorism, they're talking about, Mahmoud Abbas is talking about, your hero if Jewish blood is spilled. If they're not accountable for their actions, then we need to make, as Israelis, we need to make them accountable, but the international world should take accountable, because that's where all their money is coming in.
Yeah, but brother, we already know the international world finances them specifically so they can create these acts of terror. No, that's not true.
That's not true.
You're telling me
That's
the
not
world
true.
that gives billions of dollars to Hamas
They're
after the
complicit.
Gaza war,
They're
they don't
complicit.
know that money's going straight to Hamas's pockets.
I would say they're complicit. I don't think that's in their financial plan. Okay, this money is earmarked to go to Mahmoud. who
Excuse
just
me,
killed
in
5
America-
people.
It's not black and
Excuse
white.
me.
But everybody knows there's money going to the
In
paper
America,
flight.
according to the Patriot Act, if you try to funnel money from country to country and you're suspected of doing it for terrorism, you're going to have the FBI, the tax authorities,
You're right.
everybody at your doorstep within a day.
Yeah, you're right.
So
And that's,
they
and that's
know
what
where
I'm
that
talking about.
money's going.
No, but that's what I'm talking about.
But nobody's being accountable. It's not happening.
But you said, what's the direction that we need to take? What's the direction the
We
Israeli government needs to take?
we have to make sure
We need
that
to-
we secure our lives.
We need
the
to-
hell with what they're doing with their textbooks. They're not going to change their textbooks.
They will
but we
change
have
their
to change
textbooks.
their mindset
No.
that it's not going to be easy
That's
to
not
kill
true.
Jews anymore.
That's not true. They will change their textbooks because they're not paying for their own textbooks. If we go to the EU and we sue them in court, instead of instead of going to the Knesset and filing a lawsuit against them, we need to file a lawsuit against every single nation state around the world who's complicit in funding terror, and we need to bring them to international
I get
court.
it. That's great. But then you have homes, the preschools, the mosques. Every village corner is pictures of suicide bombers and terrorists, including the butcher Yasser Arafat. These are their idols.
I understand.
It takes
So-
education from the get-go to stop this.
So, but the question is, we talked about international community, but we talked about, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago on the show, the fact that we also are enabling Hamas by sending in tons and tons of materials which are hijacked by Hamas,
Yeah.
instead of being used for schools and hospitals, are being used for the terror tunnels and for the rockets. There's a whole racket going on down south where these trucks and trucks are lined up, and I'm proud of the residents of the Gaza Belt, and I don't even want to call it the Gaza Belt, Israel's southern, southwestern communities, who the other day at 6 a.m. got up and blocked the trucks from going into Gaza because the people down there know all too well that for the last 17 years, all the funds and all the building materials and everything going into Gaza
Made
is
their
just
life a living
using-
hell.
So which
turning that
Israelis-
around.
Yes, but are the trucks eventually getting through?
Yeah,
Trucks
which
getting
Israelis
through.
are making money off of
The
that?
trucks are eventually getting through.
And not only that,
Yes.
when during the
we have to look
Gaza
in the
war-
mirror. That's my point. We have to, before, even with all the international community, we have to look in the mirror and stop enabling Hamas ourselves. I think we talked
We
about
have to
that
be
last week.
we have to be a light upon
But I
the
just want,
nation.
but we can talk for
lead the
hours,
way.
and I know our time is limited. But I just want to move on, please. Mirroring, Kilo, what you said in terms of we talked about deterrence. The other day, the Jerusalem Post reported. I don't have the exact statistic. They said that the Shin Bet, Israel Security Service,
500
announced that Israel has thwarted over 400, almost 500 major terror attacks in 2018 alone.
I just saw one the other day. I just saw terrorists bound and blindfolded on the floor.
So there you go. So my question is this:
2 days ago.
I'm taking over the floor here with the topic. Are we fighting terror or not? Because our security forces say there are 400 to 500 different attacks we thwarted. So those are great successes, and the media doesn't report about them. And I understand why they can't for security reasons.
There shouldn't be that
Okay.
many to begin with.
So that's the question. So are we fighting terror or not? Here we have successes, and then last night a bus gets hit by bullets. What's the
The
is it
reason
yes,
why
no,
there are so many
maybe?
terrorist attacks is because there are no consequences, which goes back to the first topic. And there has to be consequences. So yes, you can say the army has thwarted 400, 500 attacks. Why are we having this many? Why is it a norm?
I will say, though, that we should be proud of our IDF soldiers on the front lines who are stopping those attacks.
Amen.
And this is in no way, shape, or form a slight to those people who have given up their best years of their lives from the ages of 18 to 21 to stand on those lines, to stand
18
on
to
those
21.
borders.
I was just
except for this
embedded.
older guy over here.
No. I was just embedded with a reserve unit, just a few days ago. And I was on patrol. I was in uniform, and I was on patrol with them for the good part of the day. And I will tell you that the night before they thwarted a terrorist attack, there was an Arab who, for some reason, thought that he could actually burn a tire, roll it down a major road where Jews drive and Arabs drive, that's under a surveillance balloon, and think he could get away with it. These soldiers were up at 3 in the morning. They didn't sleep. They were up at 3 in the morning, and they went after them. These people who eventually found this terrorist and detained him are the greatest heroes that Israel has to offer. There was actually a woman that I met. She was in her 50s, and she sometimes goes on patrols with them
Hardcore.
on arrest. And I'll tell you what, these
But you're in your 20s, so you got a while to go there. Zahava.
so when we criticize the establishment for not doing what it needs to be done, I want to make something absolutely clear.
I mean, yeah.
There is no better people in the world, in my opinion, than the Israeli soldiers, because they not only are they there because it's mandatory, but there's people who I was embedded with that it wasn't mandatory, and they were there for 3 weeks. I saw people sleeping in pillboxes for 3 days. I saw people in these watchtowers. They're living in squalor. I mean, they get everything that they need, but they're living in squalor. You know what? They're doctors, and they're lawyers, and they're plumbers, and they all put on
And they wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world.
and they all leave their families.
Yep.
And they all come together, put on a green uniform. Everybody's even. There's no politics, and they go out and they save Jewish lives every single day, and they don't sleep. So let's make sure that any single
let's be
discussion
clear.
that we have is about the policymakers and not those that are actually on the ground.
And on that note, I'm turning over to my man Goldstein
That's me.
to see what's on your mind, brother. What is on your mind this
I
week?
would like to talk this week to the world.
By the way, before you do that, if you are just joining us, if this is your first experience, this is our 3rd ever Judean Roundtable. That's the official, unofficial name of the show. We are here in the Psagot winery, just north of Jerusalem. Zahava, Englard, Shapiro, Gedaliah, Blum, Goldstein, as he's known online, Ben Goldstein, Josh Hasten. we are here, and now we're turning it over to Ben to see what is on his mind this week. I saw you coming back from patrol last night on your,
I'm always afraid to wake you up.
your nightly patrol.
Can we tell them our deal? Can we tell them our deal?
Yeah. We're gonna stand outside your house.
So Ben wrote to me. He's like, Gedaliah, you got to come on patrol with me overnight. I'm like, only one way I'll do it is if we could sit in your lab buggy, your doom bug, outside of Josh's house and just rev the engine for 10 minutes.
I don't mind.
3 in the morning.
I sleep better. I sleep better when I know Goldstein is on patrol. And this is not a lie. I'm not making stuff. Rev your buggy all you want. I sleep better knowing that somebody's out there. You, the soldiers, our first response team. We're neighbors, by the way, if you didn't catch that.
We have a great squad out there that's constantly catching terrorists.
I sleep better at night knowing when Goldstein's out. But what is on your mind this week, Goldstein?
I don't sleep better at night knowing Goldstein's out because I'm Goldstein and I'm out, so I don't sleep very much. So bear with me. I think on my mind this week is a whole lot of subjects, a whole lot of topics, and the wine is definitely kicking
So pick one or two because
Right now we're talking about
Keep going.
Israeli Arabs.
Don't stop.
I want to talk about the hypocrisy of Israeli Arabs, and I think somewhere around 22% of Israel is comprised of Israeli Arabs. And what is an Israeli Arab? It's an Arab who has the privilege and the right, of course, as a citizen to live in Israel, in the state of Israel, and receive all benefits by living in that state. And you see them at Bituach Leumi.
As many benefits you have.
The same exact benefits that every other Israeli Jew, Christian, atheist, whatever has. Muslims, Arabs, they have the same exact rights as Israeli Arabs. But it really gets better because the majority of Israeli Arabs claim to side as Fakistinians. Yet they consider their citizenship as Israeli. So the question I present to the world that claims that the Jews are occupiers, that we're brutal, that we don't allow them to live, is very simple. Why haven't 1.5 million Israeli Arabs decided to cut up their Israeli ID cards in the streets, shouting how much they despise the Zionist entity? They don't even recognize our right to exist in the Arab nations around us. So if the majority of Israeli Arabs consider themselves Fakistinians, why don't they immediately give up their Israeli citizenship? And by the way, that means their payments for their children every month from the government, access to Israeli hospitals and schools, going to the mall, all the great things that we all enjoy in Israel. Why are they still Israeli Arabs? Why haven't they done this with scissors and said, we're done? It's a very good question to present the world when they try to accuse us of BDS and apartheid. And that right there can show them that they're all full of crap. Every last one of them.
Well, you know what? Recently there was an election, right?
Where?
In Israel.
But also in the Arab sector. It's important to say.
The municipality election. The municipal election.
Gosh, everywhere they voted.
Let's just say even for the Arabs who live in Jerusalem, they were able to vote in the Jerusalem elections. Do you know that they boycotted? Most of them boycotted the elections. And now, if anybody doesn't understand,
keep talking.
That when people talk about apartheid, they don't allow under apartheid laws, you don't allow this minority to have equal rights, correct? Mm-hmm. But to boycott, and to publicly boycott
elections.
You
have the right to vote in.
Yes. So they're actually engaging in a privilege under a democracy which they have full equal rights to be able to boycott election, which is also a very clear illustration about why
it's very interesting.
The reason they're boycotted is because if they vote, they are recognizing the sovereignty of the state of Israel. That's why they won't vote. That's why they would never accept any resolutions, from 1967 on or whatever. You can pick a date. They won't recognize. They say no to even if UN resolutions are in their favor, because by doing so, explicitly, not explicitly, recognizing the state of Israel openly and publicly is not something you can do in that sector.
But they accept all the benefits.
They accept the benefits, but you have to. But I guarantee you, as to what you were saying, I guarantee you, if you have an honest conversation with any of the Arabs in this country and had a real poll done, I guarantee you that at least 9 out of 10 would say, if they're open and honest with you and willing to admit it and go on the record, they would say that they prefer, no doubt, living under the state of Israel than they do under any Arab country in the Middle East, and we know their life is much better here. Not only the Arabs who have Israeli citizenship, but I know for a fact, and I've said it to my radio audience time after time after time, when Israel pulled 10,000 Jewish residents out of Gush Katif, out of Gaza, including those who were buried there, the bodies, and pulled everyone out, you had the neighbors, the Arab neighbors living in Gaza, regularly calling their former neighbors, Jewish neighbors in Gush Katif, and saying, when is Israel coming back? Because we know that life was better under Israel. What did they get? They got Hamas. So they had Hamas. They traded in Israel, the so-called military occupation and the horrible Israel. They traded them in for Hamas. And those who were willing to admit it called their neighbors and asked and said, when is Israel coming back? And I'm curious to know if they still do it. I would not be surprised if they still do it
Well,
till
so
today.
But you know what's interesting? People can say to him, where do you get those stats from? I don't believe you. You can say that,
You can
right?
say it.
Then, but what seals the deal is quite simple. Why aren't 1.5 Arab Israelis cutting up their ID cards?
1.5
No,
million.
no.
1.5 million.
Right.
Let's look at something in a different perspective,
Please.
okay? So one of my big heroes is Natan Sharansky. Okay, Natan Sharansky is about 5'5". He's Russian. He was a refusenik. He was imprisoned many times and for many years under Soviet rule, and he was pretty much given credit along with Ronald Reagan for the downfall of the Soviet Union. Now,
It was a Rocky Balboa.
it wasn't Rocky Balboa.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, he knocked out Drago. That didn't hurt. It didn't hurt.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Are we dating
I had to
Are
say
we-
it.
are we old?
I
Okay.
watched whatever. Long story. Saw something funny about that. Go ahead. Sorry.
So he actually wrote a book co-authored with Ron Dermer, who is also one of my heroes. If you're watching, let's have coffee. So anyway, so he wrote a book called The Case for Democracy, and what he did was he laid out the principles of of living in a fear society versus living in a free society. And so he wrote a book based on his own experiences. He said under Soviet rule, they lived in a fear society. And so you weren't able to publicly speak out or act the way that you wanted to. So there would be this double speak. You would speak to your children at home with your wife a certain way, and you would tell your children, don't go out and repeat it. And then in public, you would say something different. So my perspective is like this. My perspective is that it's not according to yours because it's a hypocrisy. Why aren't they cutting up their cards? They're engaged in doublespeak. Why? Because the Palestinian Authority is a fear society. They don't live in a free society. They don't have free elections. They don't have free civil liberty.
They don't live under the Palestinian Authority.
No, it doesn't matter. But
does.
their civilization, their
Then
society.
why aren't they rioting over Gaza? Why are Judean Arabs not rioting in the streets over Gaza? That's something that's a great question. Not one Arab gives a damn about what's happening in Gaza if they're living in Judea, Samaria, Jerusalem.
It's not his clan.
I don't
They don't
agree.
care.
No,
Land,
no, because
tribe,
our
society.
no, that's
The
not true.
Europeans care more about what's happening in Gaza than Arabs that are their brothers living in Judea and Samaria.
No, it's because the Arabs in Judea and Samaria have been through the first Intifada, the second Intifada, and they lost, and they lost, and they lost.
What do you mean been through? They instigated the
No,
first
whatever,
Intifada.
whatever. The point is, and listen, whenever there's a difference in wording, let's just always rely on you because you're always better with words than me.
Sorry,
So that's
I'll
okay.
drink more wine.
No, but the thing is,
I think I'm driving you home. I don't think Goldstein's driving you home.
the price for the Arabs in Judea and Samaria is way too high
It's
for themselves
execution.
here, let alone for those Arabs in Gaza. And like you said, the Gazan Arabs are from Egypt, and the Arabs from Judea and Samaria, they're from Syria anyway. So they're really not from the same tribe anyway. Just for political reasons, they came together for some reason.
But people don't know that. People see them as you see, what happens is when we give them the word Fakistinian, when we provide them that word, which I'd be happy to do if they were normal, peace-loving people. Go for it. You want to be a Palestinian? Whatever the hell that means, go be it.
Yeah.
Go be a Robocop. Go be a Transformer. I don't care what you want to be. Just what happens is as soon as we allow them that, then they deny our very history.
Well, that's why they created it, to deny our history.
Of course, it was created by an Egyptian butcher named Yasser Arafat. I get that. The point is, we're sitting here talking about what we can do to cause deterrence. The issue really remains when you actually go into their villages and see the way they are treating each other. There's nothing you can do to deter them. Nothing. Death doesn't even stop them.
My point is like this, okay? My point is, bring up Natan Sharansky. his solution to this problem is to create more democracy, to create more freedom.
Look how it went in Iraq.
No.
Go on and vote. See what it's giving.
No. Okay. George W. Bush came in with Condoleezza Rice into Gaza years ago and said, "We need democracy. Come and vote." Democracy doesn't start and end at the ballot box. It doesn't.
But this is clan warfare, bro.
No, but that's not my point, though. My point is there needs to be an institution. There needs to be an environment which allows people to live freely with civil liberties, with all the liberal democracy as a liberal democracy.
Where do you see that in the Arab world right now?
I don't, but that's not the point.
Okay, but you're ignoring the entire jihadist mentality. I mean, you're ignoring their Quran. You're ignoring their culture.
I don't. You're right. 'Cause I don't accept it.
I
I don't accept it. And if they want to bring jihad into a liberal democracy, then they will follow the future of every other.
Do you know what an Arab told me recently? We have no liberalism. We don't even know what liberal means.
That's my point.
Let me give you an example.
Wait.
Okay, please,
Let me just finish my point.
Please.
My point is like this: is that I don't believe that the solution is to do what they did in Iraq, which is let's try to push democracy on everybody. My solution is like this: when somebody asks me from some Christian TV, movie, documentary, they ask me, "What do I think about the settlements? Are they a hindrance to peace?" I said the opposite. I said what we're doing is building bastions of freedom within a fear society. And the more they're fed and the more they grow, the more in the face of these fear of these leaders, of these so-called leaders, these dictators, these tyrants, are going to have to answer questions from their own people.
Why? No, they don't. They kill their own people. They rape their daughters if they decide to stand up against them at all on the street. They will punish you. They jail. They literally jail you as an Arab if you are seen in a picture in a Jewish sukkah.
Because there's
weeks at a time in a torture prison.
He's talking about what happened in Efrat a couple of years ago when the mayor of Efrat, Oded Ravivi, was also the foreign envoy for the Yeshua Council, the council representing communities in Judea and Samaria. He extended an olive branch and invited a group of Arabs from a nearby village to come visit Efrat. They came, and I think it was the next day they were arrested, and I think Israel actually...
For 3 weeks they were in a Pakistani prison.
Israel lobbied for them to be released. Eventually they were, but there are all sorts of different horror stories and whatnot, which came out recently in the news about how the PA, the Palestinian Authority, treats their prisoners. Hamas, forget about it. Hamas treats their prisoners. But all this is, recently in the news. You don't want to be, the joke in the movie Airplane is, have you ever been in a Turkish prison? I don't know what that's like, but you certainly do not want to be in a Palestinian Authority prison.
No, but that's the point. Bring it back to Natan Shreskin, and this is the last time I'm going to be speaking about him. But what he said was that in order for a fair society, the leadership, to remain in power, is to, number one, put the fear of death into their own people, and at the same time create an enemy from outside to blame it on them. Because once they realize that there's really no enemy, and that it is a whole Fakistinian thing, whatever, in this fear society, they're going to turn on them, and that's the model of tyranny.
Whoa, let's take a break for a second. How are they going to turn on them? How? I know these people very well. I'm with them every day. I'm asking them questions directly to their face. How are they going to turn on a society of a dictator type of thug type of government that not only steals everything from them, also takes everything they can possibly imagine as soon as they open their mouths?
I don't know. You're right. That's the fear society is deeply embedded, and in their
that is their mentality, though.
What? So their mentality on the ground is that they're essentially like a battered wife, and that they're not going to go, and that essentially they don't deserve better. Is that what you're saying?
I'll tell you what I'm saying. I'm saying here's a...
And I'm not trying to play this
here's a prime example. Here's an actual, real example as to what's actually occurring on the ground in Gush Etzion, right by our houses. 2 Arab clans from local villages, 2 different villages, had a fight. Their sons were fighting. Now, all of us, if we had a fight amongst our families, we'd either hire a mediator if it got really bad, okay? Or we'd go to Starbucks in America, or we'd sit at a Cafe Hillel and we'd talk it out. Do you know what these 2 clans do? Instead of talking it out, they decided to grab AK-47s and shoot each other to death. Because that's the way Arabs negotiate. Amongst each other. What do you think it's like when they have to drive down Route 60 down the road under Israeli flags? They feel lower. Why? Because in Islam, the mosque, the minaret, the mustaches and beards, the huge Land Cruisers that we see every day driving down the street has to be big, gaudy, powerful. Show me how powerful you can be, including the minaret, a kilometer away from us, in green, screaming out Islamic prayer every day. Why do they need that external, huge ability to show the world how great they are? Because they live amongst a clan society where a Saddam Hussein rules them. What happens when America took Saddam Hussein out of the picture? We have absolute chaos in the Middle East. Iran said, hey, thanks. And look what we're left with. So take that on a micro level. If you take the Arab clan, and I'm not blaming Arabs, I'm telling you this is the way they are built. You don't blame your toaster oven for burning your bread. That's what a toaster oven does. If you don't take it out in time, it's charred, baby. So too, the Arab mentality is not the Western mentality. They shoot each other to death. 3 people were murdered over this clan fight. 3 people were murdered amongst their clan, amongst themselves. And it brings up Duma, the whole house burning down.
Yeah.
They burn each other's houses
Which
down.
is also 20 minutes from here.
So what I'm saying is, I know we want peace. You know we want peace. I would hug, and I do. Just today at Rami Levy, I hugged 40 Arabs saying, I love you, brother. I talked to them about their families. We would open up our homes to Arabs if there was a peaceful solution to this. But guess what? There ain't, as we say down south. And we have to walk proud, walk strong with a big stick and still show respect to everybody around.
So you're saying it's not a leadership problem, it's an actual people on the ground problem also?
It's both. It's everything at once.
So their leadership is reflexive of their society on the ground?
Their leadership is simply the way every single one of them want to be. Every one of them want to be Yasser Arafat. Every one of them wants to be Abu Mazen. They want to be the big dog in charge. I want the land
didn't start
cruisers.
in 1964 with the PLO.
No.
Our troubles didn't start with them then.
No.
This goes back to before
Muhammad.
we reestablished the state.
This starts from Islam.
This goes back to the Romans. This goes back to the Greeks. This goes back to 3,000 years ago. This is the same hatred as it was in 1940 in Poland. It's the same because it's all Jews must die means something.
Right. Not to lessen Pittsburgh, not to lessen the Holocaust, not to lessen any terror attacks we've experienced here. I mean, anti-Semitism is a problem that's over 3,400 years old, and we're seeing the manifestations of that today, whether you're in Pittsburgh, or you're in Bethel, or in Jerusalem, or in southern Israel, or anywhere else. I mean, that is it remains our problem today. We're nearly out of time, but if you had
Well, sorry, one more point.
Go ahead.
As far as anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
Well, stop calling it that.
No.
You're not a
whatever.
Semite in America. No, not whatever. Call it Jew hatred.
All right,
Call
whatever.
it what it is.
Okay.
I'm not a Semite. Look at me.
All right, for the purpose
In
of...
my DNA, I'm a Jew.
All right,
Isn't semi-medium for the Middle East?
I'm going to
Right,
overrule
Arabs
your
so much
wording.
too,
I'm going to overrule your wording right now. I know I said before.
You have one more thing.
I have
on
one more
your
thing
mind,
really to say,
and then we
really
got to
quickly.
wrap up because
Okay.
the sun, I want to show people the view.
Okay.
The sun is setting over the hills of southern Binyamin. Gedaliah has got one more point.
Everybody's
and then we'll,
everybody's
wrap
talking.
it up.
Everybody's talking right now, especially after Pittsburgh, about anti-Semitism in the world and
Jew hatred.
the Jew hatred.
You're wearing a yellow scar right now.
There was a Pew poll that was done a couple of years ago that ranked anti-Semitism, levels of anti-Semitism
Jew hatred.
around the world, according to the language there. That's the wine talking.
That's Goldstein talking.
Do you know which region, which people, which area, specific area had the highest levels of anti-Semitism
Yes.
in the world?
Yes, I do.
97% of a population had the outlook that was very similar to that of the Nazis against the Jews. Do you know where that is? Pittsburgh?
No, the Palestinian Authority, the PA. This was a 2014 ADL study, by the way. This wasn't a right-wing conspiracy study trying to out the PA or the Arabs or the Muslims. There wasn't anything about that. It was a universal, it was all over the world. It was a global study. Okay, they examined where is the rate of anti-Semitism the highest in the world, and lo and behold, over 90%, as you said,
97%.
was from the Palestinian Authority.
Yet the world politicizes our deaths and then calls other deaths of Jews, Jew hatred and deaths, anti-Semitism. For some reason, the place where most Jews live in the world is no longer Jew hatred when we're killed. Now it's politicized.
Of course.
It's crazy.
Because it's easy to then say, we don't hate Jews. My best friend is a Jew. You understand? It's the same sickness that it was 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 2,000 years ago. At the end of the day, what we're faced with is a fractured, segmented, clan-like society that isn't a nation with no history whatsoever, that's trying so hard to prove to the world that they are a nation and they've been here forever somehow. I don't quite get how they're doing that, but really the reason why they're able to do all that is because on a majority scale, the world, and this might shock a lot of you, the world despises and fears the Jew. The Jew, which is us. And it's been that way since time has been recorded. So, what's great about it is that here we are drinking wine in a Psagot winery as the world despises us.
Freedom of Zion.
With something that connects us 2,500 years ago to this land.
Right.
We sit here and tell the world, to hell with you. We are here to support you. We're here to be with you. We're here to give you everything, but at the same time, we demand respect from you.
And
Amen.
amen to that. And I'll just say, we brought it up before. We talked about our soldiers and the IDF. And with the phenomenon, if you want to call it that, of world terror, whether you're in Pittsburgh or whether you're in California, wherever it's happening all over the world, as I tell people who ask, where are you more afraid? In New York, in Israel, in Panama, in Canada, wherever it is in the world, I still, despite it all, I feel safer here because
I agree.
Because of the fact that after 2,000 years, we have the first Jewish army since the Maccabees who are defending us 24/7. We have the first state of Israel, recognized state, since our kings back 2,000 years ago. And please God, I will take my chances here with all these people who are protecting us, whether it's the IDF, whether it's the world of public diplomacy. Everyone here has their part to play. And we'll leave it at that. We'll say l'chaim. We're going to wrap up. Before you go, don't go, because I think we want to turn around the cameras. It's almost nightfall here in Israel to show you the view. But just want to repeat. If you missed any part of the show, go back to Israel Video Network. Go back to thelandofisrael.com. Go to Ben Goldstein's Facebook page. Gedaliah Blum, Twitter, Facebook.
I'm on Israel Video Network.
Israel Video Network. Zahava.
Facebook.
Go back. You can watch any part of the show. Share it with your friend. If you want to get involved, the best way to do it is...
The best way to do it is, first of all...
Get in touch and...
leave a comment saying that you want a coin. And then we'll be in touch.
And every
Gedaliah
single
will
one
send you
of
a
you,
coin from the hills of Binyamin.
The hills of Benjamin.
spread the truth to your friends and neighbors, and all it takes for evil to flourish, and I'll say it every time, even if you get sick of me, just turn the channel off. All it takes for evil to flourish is for good men and women to stand by and do absolutely nothing about it. Just stand up for what's right.
Our next roundtable, I believe, if everything goes according to plan, will be from southern Israel.
Yes. To Gaza.
Oh, no. Next week.
Next week?
Next week, I believe it's in Har Zaytim.
And
then the week after,
overlooking the Temple Mount. The week
overlooking
after,
Temple Mount.
we'll go down south. But don't go anywhere. We're gonna get up. We're gonna turn around the cameras. Thanks for joining us. Share this.
Thank you all
But
for
don't
coming
go anywhere.
and
We're gonna
watching.
turn around the cameras.
I appreciate it very
You don't want to
much.
miss the view. Don't go anywhere. Let's see how we do it. Let's turn around the camera.
This is amazing.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
This
We're
is
gonna
the
turn around the
winery
cameras.
right called
We're
Psagot
gonna go out on
Winery.
the porch.
You can
Sorry
see it.
for this
I'm going to
view
turn this
here.
camera around as I drink.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Go ahead.
And there's Zahava, an amazing
Here we go.
holding my water bottle contraption.
Jewish
How beautiful is it
ingenuity,
out here,
come
right?
on.
This is your land. This is my land.
Stunning.
Our land. This is the land of anybody who craves.
This is just stunning.
Unbelievable
Ingenuity
here.
and
Another
light
great day
and love
in the Jewish state of
and
Israel.
equality and freedom.
We have Migron down below. That's
I
a
really
whole
wish
story
all of you
within
would come
itself.
here and visit this with me.
Community
Look
of
at these
Migron.
heroes for
This
Israel right
Just
is
here.
our
over there,
land.
over those lights,
Living our
is our
lives,
capital,
paying our bills,
Jerusalem.
doing the normal thing.
You can see everyone finishing their shows
Stunning.
here. There's Zahava. There's the Psagot winery. We're doing 360. Goldstein is over there behind the tree. Gedaliah. And that's a wrap, folks. So thanks for joining us. Don't
Good night,
forget to share
everybody.
this with your friends, share it with your neighbors. Get in touch with us.